Okay, now we come to the fourth knowledge. And he with mind concentrated, etc., applies and directs his mind to the divine ear. With the divine ear purified and surpassing that of human beings, he hears sounds both divine and human, whether far or near. Just as a man going on a long journey might hear the sound of a big drum, a small drum, a conch, cymbals, or a cattle drum, and he might think, that is a big drum, a small drum, etc., a cattle drum. So the monk with mind concentrated, etc., hears sounds, divine or human, far or near. This is a fruit of the homeless life, more excellent and perfect than the former ones. Stop you for a moment. So here you see, the Buddha is giving progressively higher attainments. So each one, when the Buddha describes, the Buddha says, this is more excellent and perfect than the previous ones. So this one, the divine ear, is called Dibbasota. In English, it's called clairaudience. So a person with this divine ear, he wants to hear ghosts talking, he can hear. He wants to hear devas talking, he can hear. He wants to hear us talking also, he can hear. And he with mind concentrated, etc., applies and directs his mind to the knowledge of others' minds. He knows and distinguishes with his mind the minds of other beings or other persons. He knows the mind with passion to be with passion. He knows the mind without passion to be without passion. He knows the mind with hatred to be with hatred. He knows the mind without hatred to be without hatred. He knows the deluded mind to be deluded. He knows the undeluded mind to be undeluded. He knows the narrow mind to be narrow. He knows the broad mind to be broad. He knows the expanded mind to be expanded. He knows the unexpanded mind to be unexpanded. He knows the surpassed mind to be surpassed. He knows the unsurpassed mind to be unsurpassed. He knows the concentrated mind to be concentrated. He knows the unconcentrated mind to be unconcentrated. He knows the liberated mind to be liberated. He knows the unliberated mind to be unliberated. Just as a woman or a man or young boy, fond of his appearance, might examine his face in a brightly polished mirror or in water, and by examination will know whether there was a spot there or not. So the monk with mind concentrated, etc., directs his mind to the knowledge of others' minds. This is the fruit of the homeless life, more excellent than the former ones. So this one, knowledge of others' minds, is called Ceto Pariya Jnana. In Chinese it's called Ta Sin Tong. Now we come to the sixth. And he with mind concentrated, etc., applies and directs his mind to the knowledge of previous existences. He remembers many previous existences, 1 birth, 2, 3, 4, 5 births, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 births, 100, 1,000, 100,000 births, several periods of contraction, of expansion, of both contraction and expansion. There my name was so and so, my clan was so and so, my caste was so and so, my food was such and such. I experienced such and such pleasant and painful conditions. I lived for so long. Having passed away from there, I arose there. There my name was so and so, etc. And having passed away from there, I arose here. Thus he remembers various past births, their conditions and details. It is just as if a man were to go from his village to another, and from that to yet another, and thence return to this home village. He might think, I came from my own village to that other one, where I stood, sat, spoke, or remained silent like this. And from that one I went to another, where I stood, sat, spoke, or remained silent like this. And from there I have just returned to my own village. Just so the monk with mind concentrated, etc., remembers past births. This is a fruit of the homeless life, more excellent and perfect than the previous ones. So here is remembering past lives. In Pali it's called Pube Nivasa Nusati. Now we come to number 7. And he with mind concentrated, etc., applies and directs his mind to the knowledge of the passing away and arising of beings. With the divine eye, purified and surpassing that of humans, he sees beings passing away and arising, base and noble, well-favoured and ill-favoured, to happy and unhappy destinations as karma directs them. And he knows these beings, on account of misconduct of body, speech or thought, or disparaging the noble ones, have wrong view, and will suffer the karmic fate of wrong view. At the breaking up of the body after death, they are reborn in a lower world, a bad destination, a state of suffering, hell. But these beings, on account of good conduct of body, speech, or thought, of praising the noble ones, have right view and will reap the karmic reward of right view. At the breaking up of the body after death, they are reborn in a good destination, a heavenly world. Thus with the divine eye, etc., he sees beings passing away and re-arising. It is as if there were a lofty building at the crossroads, and a man with good eyesight standing there might see people entering or leaving a house, walking in the street, or sitting in the middle of the crossroads, and he might think, these are entering a house, etc. Just so with the divine eye, he sees beings passing away and re-arising. This is a fruit of the homeless life, more perfect and excellent than the former ones. Here it's talking about the divine eye or heavenly eye, being able to see all types of beings and they're arising and passing away. This is, in English, is called clairvoyance. Pali is called Dibba Chakku. And he with mind concentrated, purified and cleansed, unblemished, free from impurities, malleable, workable, established and having gained imperturbability, applies and directs his mind to the knowledge of the destruction of the corruptions or asavas. Stop here for a moment. You see, when a person has attained the fourth jhana, this state, the mind is concentrated, purified and cleansed, unblemished, totally purified, not a spot of impurity. Free from impurities, malleable, workable, sometimes he said malleable, wieldy, established and gain imperturbability, cannot shake. So before a person can apply his mind to the various psychic powers, he must attain this fourth jhana, so that the mind becomes purified, concentrated, malleable and workable. You can use it in whatever way you want. He knows as it really is, this is suffering. He knows as it really is, this is the origin of suffering. He knows as it really is, this is a cessation of suffering. He knows as it really is, this is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. And he knows as it really is, these are the asavas. This is the origin of the asavas, this is the cessation of the asavas, this is the path leading to the cessation of the asavas. And to his knowing and seeing, his mind is delivered from the asavas of sense desire, from the asava of becoming, from the asava of ignorance, and the knowledge arises in him. This is deliverance, and he knows birth is finished, the holy life has been led, done is what had to be done, there is nothing further here. Just as if, sire, in the midst of the mountains there were a pond, clear as a polished mirror, where a man with good eyesight standing on the bank could see oyster shells, gravel banks, and the shoals of fish on the move of stationery, and he might think, this pond is clear, there are oyster shells, etc. Just so with mind concentrated, etc., he knows, birth is finished, the holy life has been led, done is what had to be done, there is nothing further here. This, sire, is the fruit of the homeless life, visible here and now, which is more excellent and perfect than the previous fruits. And sire, there is no fruit of the homeless life, visible here and now, that is more excellent and perfect than this. Stop here for a moment. So this is the last of the knowledges under Vijja. This is called asava kaya jnana, destruction of the asavas, and is equivalent to liberation or enlightenment. This asavas, I would translate, here is translated as corruptions. I would like to translate it as uncontrolled mental outflows. This is the leakage of the mind, the tendency for consciousness to flow. And this tendency for the consciousness to flow is extremely strong. And when we are not doing anything, the mind will start flowing. We start thinking, we start daydreaming. And it's so strong that when you go to sleep, it flows again and we start dreaming at night. So the problem with this flow of consciousness is that it creates the world. The world is created by consciousness because the world is in seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, smell, taste, touch and thinking consciousness. The first five determines the outside world. The thinking consciousness is the inner world. So because the world is created by consciousness, to become liberated from the world of suffering, we have to end the flow of consciousness. So unless your mind is very strong, unless you have attained the fourth jhana, you are unable to stop the mind from flowing. So here you find to attain liberation, this person on the holy path, he has to contemplate the Four Noble Truths. Having contemplated the Four Noble Truths and the asavas, the flow of consciousness, then he becomes liberated. At this, King Ajatasattu exclaimed, "Excellent Lord, excellent! It is as if someone were to set up what had been knocked down, or to point out the way to one who got lost, or to bring a lamp into a dark place, so that those with eyes could see what was there. Just so, the Blessed Lord has expounded the Dhamma in various ways. And I, Lord, go for refuge to the Blessed Lord, to the Dhamma and to the Sangha. May the Blessed Lord accept me from this day forth as a lay follower as long as life shall last. Transgression overcame me, Lord, foolish, erring and wicked as I was, in that I, for the sake of the throne, deprived my father, that good man and just king, of his life. May the Blessed Lord accept my confession of my evil deed, that I may restrain myself in future." And the Buddha said, "Indeed, sire, transgression overcame you when you deprived your father, that good man and just king, of his life. But since you have acknowledged the transgression and confessed it as is right, we will accept it. For he who acknowledges his transgression as such and confesses it for betterment in future will grow in the Aryan discipline." At this, King Ajatasattu said, "Lord, permit me to depart now. I am busy and have much to do. Do now, Your Majesty, as you think fit." And then King Ajatasattu, rejoicing and delighting at these words, rose from his seat, saluted the Lord, and departed with his right side towards him. As soon as the king had gone, the Lord said, "The king is done for, his fate is sealed, monks. But if the king had not deprived his father, that good man and just king, of his life, then as he sat there, the pure and spotless Dhamma eye would have arisen in him." Thus the Lord spoke, and the monks delighted and rejoiced at these words. That's the end of the sutta. So just now I forgot to say, the last fruit of the holy life is the destruction of the asavas, and that is the most excellent and perfect fruit of the holy life. And there is no fruit of the holy life that is more excellent and perfect than attaining the destruction of the asavas, which is equivalent to enlightenment or liberation. So the king was very happy that the Buddha answered his question directly to the point and so detailed. And then he confessed to the Buddha that he did something very evil and wrong by killing his father. And the Buddha later told his monks that this king is done for, his fate is sealed. What do you mean by his fate is sealed? Because in the suttas, the Buddha said there are 5 very heavy, the 5 heaviest karmic offenses. The first one is to shed the blood of a Buddha, a Sammasambuddha, purposely harm a Sammasambuddha by shedding his blood. Secondly, killing an Arahant. Third one is killing your mother. Fourth is killing your father. And the fifth is splitting the Sangha into 2 Sanghas. A Sangha that is harmonious, you split the Sangha into 2 Sanghas. So, once a person commits one of these 5 karmic offenses, hell is sure for him. There is no running away from hell. And he will go to hell for a long time. That's why the Buddha said his fate is sealed. And then the Buddha also said, if he had not killed his father, today I taught him the Dhamma eye or the Dhamma vision would have arisen in him. That means he would have understood the Dhamma and attained stream entry. So you find it's always listening to the Dhamma that a person attains the Dhamma eye, attaining stream entry. So unfortunately, because his mind was so disturbed that he listened to the Dhamma, he cannot sink in. When your sila is not pure, your mind is disturbed. There is remorse in you, and the mind becomes very disturbed. And so, when you listen to something, you cannot concentrate. A lot of people are like that. Sometimes you tell them something, to do something or not to do something, they say later, as if they didn't hear what you said. They go and do what they're not supposed to do, or not do what they're supposed to do. That shows their mind is so scattered. It's elsewhere. When you're talking to them, they don't even catch what you're saying. In the same way. This Jata Satu, King Jata Satu. So here, to recapitulate, the Buddha said the fruits of the holy life. Firstly is from the worldly point of view, if a person becomes a monk, then even the king will pay respect to him. But from the spiritual point of view, first is the practice of a monk. He practices the morality first, then as I mentioned, all the 10 practices under charana, and then after that he gains knowledge. Result of his practice, he gains knowledge. The first one is contemplation, knowledge, understanding that he's actually made out of the material body and the mental part, consciousness. And the second one is Mano Maya Idi, mind created body. This is a psychic power. He can create draw out from his body another body. The third one is Idi Vida, psychokinesis, the various types of psychic powers. He can fly, he can multiply his body, he can go through the wall, etc. Then the fourth is clairaudience, the divine ear, Dibasota. The fifth is Cetopariya Jnana, knowledge of others' minds, able to read others' minds. The sixth is knowledge of previous lives, Pubbe Nivasa Nusati. And the seventh is clairvoyance, the divine eye or heavenly eye, Dibba Chaku. The eighth is destruction of the asavas, asavakaya jnana, and that means liberation or enlightenment. So these are the 8 knowledges under Vijaya. So I stop here. Anything to discuss? No. How can a person attain the first jhana and not aware of it? It means he's not mindful. There are some monks who say that when you attain jhana, you don't know. And then when you come out of it, only you know. And that means he was asleep. He was not in jhana. Jhana is a very mindful state. Very mindful. You cannot be more mindful than when you are in jhana.
Encourage the institution maybe under tree, root, or common ground and all that. But I see how we practice. What is
You're saying that it is hardly practiced by monks, staying in seclusion and under the tree and the charnel ground and all that. In the early part of the Buddha's ministry or teaching, the Buddha did not allow the monks to stay in monasteries, and the monks used to practice in seclusion. But later, as the Buddha was getting old, then he allowed lay people to build kutis for the monks to stay and establish monasteries, so that later monks used to practice in forest monasteries. During the Buddha's time, there were hardly any town monasteries. Most of the monasteries were forest monasteries. And the monks used to move from one monastery to another. And those monasteries, being forest monasteries, was large areas. Sometimes they were called avasa, or something they are translated as parks. So in those monasteries, the monks could meditate during the daytime under the trees or in the caves and all that. It is still being done in certain countries like Thailand. In fact, you find in the whole world, the most number of forest monks are found in Thailand. In Sri Lanka, you have some. But in Burma, you can hardly find, because Burma is, there's a lot of fighting between the Karen tribesmen and the government. So it's dangerous for monks to travel in the mountains or in the forest. So in Burma, you can hardly find forest monks. But formerly, maybe. So there still are forest monks, like in Sri Lanka, in Thailand. But those monks, you don't know them because they don't want to know you. They want to stay alone.
Okay, another question. I hear there are monasteries in the country and monks and Buddha and all. And there is hardly any mention about temples, about the Hindus and temples. But today, Buddhist temples are glorified rather than monasteries. So, will Buddhists at that time dwell in temples?
No, I mentioned that during the Buddha's time, most of the monasteries were forest monasteries, not town monasteries. Town monasteries, nowadays you call them temple, because they cater more for chanting than practice of the holy life.
Someone who reaches for Dhamma is guaranteed to go in karma?
No, not guaranteed. Those who don't understand the Dhamma, they won't even become a Sotapanna. You got to understand the Dhamma. And if you understand the Dhamma, and with the fourth jhana, you might become liberated.
Okay. The person without experiencing the seeing and Nikaya and
Without what?
seeing and Nikaya.
Seeing the nimitta. This nimitta is something that comes from the Visuddhi Magga. And they talk about the light. And they associate the light with the object of meditation, for example, the breath. But as I mentioned just now, there are some monks whose experience is different. That it is not the light is not associated with the object of meditation, but as something that comes within you. People like the late Achan Mahathera, he also says that the light comes from within. So this concept of nimitta is something that is expanded by later monks. In the suttas there is mention of nimitta, but not in the sense that is explained in the Visuddhi Magga. The nimitta in the suttas is more like a sign or an object. Whatever you put your attention to, that is the nimitta, the samadhi nimitta, your object of concentration. That is what is meant in the suttas. So the problem nowadays with the monks who follow the books like the Visuddhi Magga is that they might start with the breath meditation. They contemplate the breath. Later, they want to see the light. So they start seeing the light, and then they change their object from the breath to the light. But that is no more the breath meditation. In the Buddha's teaching, it is concentration on the breath all the way until a person attains the first jhana. And then only he can put his attention on the 5 jhana factors. The 5 jhana factors does not include light. So in the Buddha's suttas and the Buddha's discourses, to attain jhana, 5 things are extremely important. Only when you attain these 5 things, you have attained jhana. The first one is thought directed and sustained. The second is the first one is thought directed. The second is thought sustained. These two are extremely important. Thought directed means, for example, you are meditating on your breath. Every time your mindfulness goes away, you pull it back, direct it to your breath. That is thought directed. And then to sustain it on your breath, that is thought sustained. To keep your attention on your breath, that is thought sustained. So if it runs away again, you pull it back to your breath, that is vitaka, thought directed. And to sustain it on your thought is vichara. These are the two factors that you have to practice first. So you keep practicing these two, then slowly the mind becomes concentrated, and when it becomes one-pointed, the other three factors come. Piti, which is delight, sukha, which is happiness or bliss, and ekagata, which is one-pointedness. So when you attain these 5 states, you enter the first jhana. So you see that these 5 states does not talk about nimitta, does not talk about the light. Alright? So the light is something that is just a passing thing. It comes and it goes. But the problem is, if you pay too much attention on the light, it becomes imaginary. Then you keep thinking about light, and then you see the light because you want to see the light. So you keep seeing the light. But that is not jhana. Jhana is these 5 jhana factors. Okay? So that's why you have to be very familiar with the Buddha's words. Otherwise, you have thought something else and you believe in it. If jhana were important, if the light were important, it would constitute one of the 5 jhana factors. But because it is not in the 5 jhana factors, it is not important in the Buddha's discourse. Only the 5 jhana factors are important because only the 5 jhana factors will bring you into jhana. Okay? So shall we end here? Getting late, tired.